Just take a moment to get seated, get settled, and to listen to your own breath. It's always like the message that I want to remind myself and students of when the space you practice in yoga isn't ideal or isn't perfect. And it's, how we can practice yoga, but if somebody's cell phone goes off, that's a weird agitation that is probably an overreaction. And there's a lot of value especially when you've practiced for some time, when you've gotten into some sort of habit or routine with this, is to intentionally kind of put yourself in places that are not as conducive to practicing. That maybe there's even more distractions around you. Because it always highlights whether or not your yoga practice is actually effective and actually working. Because if we need to practice in a bubble with total silence, with candlelight, with zero distractions, then probably the yoga is not doing a lot to address the issues and the stresses that we encounter in daily life. So every time you sit down, can you tune into something that's always there, your breath, that deeper way of tuning into yourself, and through that, everything around you as well. And once you feel the breath start to settle, relaxing where you can in your body as well, but still sitting up tall and full. Bring your hands together right in front of your heart. And join me as we sing. So 3 ohms, 1 round of the invocation, followed by an ohm. Take a deep breath. And then to your heart, you can bow your head. Release your hands, open your eyes, and come to all fours to start. So you get that breath, little awareness, and then start to move around in the body. addressing anything that feels a little tight, a little stiff, a little kind of tired or asleep. That's what I think of, when you engage, you create all that tone in the muscles. It's like you're creating a vibrancy, you're waking up, you're enlivening the soft tissue. And then just you can turn through the wrist, different positions, making sure you can create that same life and tone through the muscles as you take these more challenging wrist positions. And then even back of the hands to the floor. Making the hand really push down, the fingernails really stay heavy. Good. And then just a couple so flip your hands back so fingers are forward, and then a couple rocking onto the ridges of your hand, these kind of first knuckle push-ups. You can do both hands at the same time, or one hand at a time. Really control the descent back down. Make that slow, make that very much under your control of the movement. Good. And then to downward facing dog. From there, lift your knees up. Taking a few breaths to pedal and move around. And then right leg up to the sky. Take a nice big breath as you hold it up there as you reach back and stretch through the legs. And then big step forward, coming all the way up into a lunge. Find your balance. Nice good contact with your feet into the floor. And then take the arms up to the sky when you're ready. So thinking about, first the points where you actually connect to the mat, making those heavy, making those feel solid. It may take some muscles, some strength in order to achieve that. But once you have that, just really this steady, heavy connection of your feet against the mat. Push your feet down, reach up, take a nice big breath. Yeah, good. And then back to downward facing dog. Lift your left leg up on the next inhale. Take another breath to stretch back, to lengthen through that back leg. And then a big step forward, another lunge. So part of it is the way you push your feet into the ground. Part of it is like letting some tension out of your body, so your body weight and gravity help make those points of contact more solid. But so there's still an ease in the way you hold this. You're not overworking, you're not so tense that it's restricting your breath. You're just looking for, like the first one or two important elements. And then enjoy a nice big breath as you ground your feet a little heavier, as you stretch tall through the spine. Good. And then hands back to the mat, another downward facing dog. Go forward to plank pose, top of a push-up. Lower down on the exhale, all the way to your belly. Clasp your hands behind your back and lift your shoulders, lift your chest. See if you can actually, if your hands are resting down on your butt, if you can lift not just your hands, but even the shoulders straight up to the sky. You're not trying to lift your hands faster than your shoulders, but think about elevating the entire arm bone, like you had from your wrists up to your shoulders, and you could just lift those points up to the ceiling. Stretch your chest forward, belly forward, and then release back down. Ooh, good. Place the hands and go to down dog. And then make your way to the foot of your mat for a forward fold. As you get warmed up, you can bend the one knee and the other, or keeping the legs more straight, push down heavier into one leg and then the other. So in both of these, the hips are leaning a little bit, but you can use your body weight to load the muscle a little bit more and to load different angles of it, different corners of it. Good, and then from center, hands to hips, lift your chest, come all the way up to stand. Standing nice and tall, take the arms to the sky and stretch. So keep this lift as you push your hips down, the space from where your hips are to your rib cage are on all sides to stay very lifted through there and strong around the muscles that support. Grab your right hand so as you stretch and tip yourself into this side bend, think about even keeping length on the left side, the side that is shortening here, both sides, as long as lifted as you can. And then come back up and switch. Think of it, a lot of this is like you're just getting movement back into the body, so you're tractioning things. You may feel like if certain muscles have been a little asleep for a while, they may feel kind of tight. Don't try to go for sensation, but go more for, good shapes, good positions. Come back up tall. So here's another weird activation one. Your hips got to stay centered as you do this. So this is, instead of like this type of thing, so keep your hips and see if you can shift, essentially like you're sliding your ribs over to one side. Ideally, also, you're not going forward and back. And you can actually, it's always helpful for me to get a little bit here. I don't know if you can see this, but what you're doing is the quadratus lumborum, one of the back muscles that tends to be tight in people, that's one of the jobs that this sucker does. And if you dig your finger into it, you should feel that as you go that way, the one that's lengthening should firm up. Yeah, a lot of times when muscles get tight, if you activate them, if you make them do their job, they start to loosen and relax. So then from here, just into a squat, bend your knees. Because if you're tight and then you start doing these squats and you really crank them, it can be too much. You want to get some length and then some of that container for it. Take your hips back, butt back, keeping your belly drawn in, and then push down with your hands. See if you can lift your chest, but without letting the knees come forward. Again, just like a little bit of a softer way of cueing it initially. Hips are sitting back, upper body is lifting up. If you feel good there and you want to do it, you can take the arms off the legs or over the head. But this should be a position that you can live in. You should feel like your low back shouldn't be overly freaking out. If you're brand new to yoga, you guys know, but some people might be like, oh, my low back is freaking out. It needs more strength. It needs to work on this. Good. Dive forward, touch the floor. And draw the belly in towards the spine. So you round through those back muscles. Make the neck, the shoulders a little heavier as you take one more breath here. And then step your left foot back so you're in a lunge. Come on up. Firm up that back leg, make it stronger, make it straighter. If you want the challenge, even take the foot back a little more. So the heel, you can do these little pulses, like you're pressing off the back leg, you're charging up the back leg. Soften a little heavier into your front thigh, and then take the arms up and stretch. They look so good. So that back leg, that taut, that almost spring-loaded feeling, keep that as you start to reach and stretch back into the floor. Make the spine grow taller. Take that stretch up and even a little back if your body feels ready to go there. Keep hips to the floor, waistline to the sky. Good. We're going to do a twist from there. That left hand down, right hand up. Turn open. Yeah. Remind yourself what the back leg was doing, how much effort, how much steadiness to hold. Back leg, imagine it's hugging towards the right or towards the midline, then lean your head back. You can take your shoulders back more. Beautiful. Good. Touch the floor. Step back to downward facing dog. On an inhale, move forward to the top of a push-up. Push the ground away. Soften your neck. On the next exhale, bend the elbows and lower all the way down. Good. Cobra pose. Anchor your legs, your feet as you come up. And again, like you can move a little on this first one. Good. And then back to downward facing dog. Step your left foot to the front of your mat, high lunge. And so do that same check-in with your back leg. Feel the muscles, the quad muscles, the thigh muscles on the front of that back leg. They need to be tight because that's what keeps your knees straight. Or that's, I should really say, that's a goal. Like that's one of the elements that we want to train and develop. And then a softer, heavier front leg, and that big lift, that big stretch through the upper body. So much strength that as you try to push your feet down, the back ankle doesn't wobble or shake, that you're holding through there. Ground the legs, lift the spine. You can lean back a little bit, continue to stretch tall. Hold your back leg steady as you come down for the twist. Right hand to the floor, left arm to the sky. Feel like both of your legs, your inner thighs, are hugging towards each other. So you maintain that boundary, that midline, but the upper body can then lean back. And even very safely, because of the support that good leg action provides. One more breath. Very, very good look. And touch the floor, step back, downward facing dog. And you have your option if you want to move through that vinyasa or just take a couple breaths and rest. Nice mirror. Nice push-ups. Look strong. Really good. And then bend your knees, walk or jump, come back to the front of your mat. Yeah, and then a full. Keep the top of your seat moving back as you lift your chest all the way to stand. All the way up. Take the arms up tall and stretch. Oh, good. And then bring your arms down by your sides. So, I mean, you guys kind of know this, but this is kind of important. I'm going to try to teach you a few of these back bends today. And make sense. Like I teach you a back bend, I don't teach that much because it's kind of hard and things get out of sync. So, and when back bends feel good, they're fantastic. But if you're a little off or something's a little wacky, they get into trouble. So this whole like pelvic position, this is why we want our spine to stay organized. So the little squat that I always teach is like very didactic for that. If you sit back, and you learn how to do this where as you sit back, you take your hips back. As you come up, you lead with your chest, not your hips like that. So you're trying to essentially get down there and be able to lift the chest. As you come up, like where I'm touching is right below that little bump on the front of your hip. You're trying to keep that back a little bit faster. So it would look, this is wrong. Like if I go here and I do this to come out, and then I've like, pulled all the curve out of my spine. You see people even do squats like this, like they tuck under and they squat like this. So I'm like working my back I'm not in my hips. So doing a back bend like this, yeah, it just wouldn't feel good. So okay, I'm going to sit down into this little squat. Hips back, and you're welcome to keep your fingers there to notice, like, do you bump into your fingers? Does your butt tuck under? Keep your butt sliding back, lift your belly and chest, and again, the hands can come to the thighs, they could reach over your head. I'm going to take this just a little bit more intense as you sit down, but at the same time, slide your hips back, ground heavy through your toes, and keep pushing the weight of your pelvis down. Lift through the spine, through the arms. See if you could even look up towards where your fingertips are. And then exhale, touch the floor and fold. You should feel muscles in your mid-back definitely having to work to be able to do that. On the inhale, lift your chest. On the exhale, bow down again. Good. Come do a deep squat. And then, so come down so you're sitting. Take the hands back behind you, wide enough that you can get your shoulder blades onto your back, that the head of the arm bone also rolls back. So again, the fingers can point whatever way makes that more doable. Push the ground away, make sure the shoulders are set there, and your fingers are clawing the mat. Chest up, and then hips up. It can be a little, it can be a lot. Shoulders pushing down is the important part. So if you lose it, come back to the floor, reset, and do just a couple. And make the legs a little bit quieter in this. Make your arms, your hands do much of this work. Because that's the other big element in any of these, quote, back bending poses, is there's a lot of shoulder work that's required of us. And just for good, healthy shoulders, that's the case. So once you're up there, see if you can lean towards one arm a little more, but as you do that, the arm, like push that arm down heavier and go side to side. But only go side to side, again, if you are able to push the shoulder down. Don't just flop over there. You know, if you're just doing this, you're gonna hurt your shoulders. This. Or your elbows can get in trouble. Good. All right. And then from there, we'll wiggle yourself back to downward facing dog. You can take a vinyasa if you want. Take your right leg up to the sky. Bend the knee this time. Open the hip up, twist. And then a big step forward, warrior two. Come on up. Press down through your legs. Feet solid on the floor, lift the whole rib cage and chest up. And then kind of like we did in this chair position thing, try to sit back. You're going to bow a little. See if you can sit deeper into your front thigh. And then, so your butt swings back as you come up, keep the hips kind of slow moving. So the hips are staying back. From the side is probably the angle you want to see. So you pull the hips back, and as much as the hips go back, that's how much you'll tip forward. And then lift your chest to get back upright, slowing the hips down. So you're trying, hopefully to be able to feel the way that this pendulum of your hips affects where your upper body is. All right, on this last one, clasp your hands behind your back. Do that same thing, pull the hips back. But you can bow a little forward with the upper body into this. And you're trying to, we're warming up and working into that front hip, that front thigh. So as the hips pull you back and hinge you forward, try to sit heavier into that front leg. Try to let some tension out of that front hip. Good. And then lift your chest, come all the way back up, warrior two. Straighten through your front leg, triangle pose. You can do that same, you won't have as much movement, but you can do the same idea here. Groins back, chest up, and then keep the chest up as the hips come back in line. From there, down to triangle pose. So you've organized your spine, your upper body, when you were standing upright. As you come into the pose, don't go so deep that you've changed that at all. So your spine wants to be very stable. Teach it where that stable, neutral position is. And the hips, the legs, get most of the work here. You're doing great, guys. Push your feet down into the floor like you're making them longer. Take a breath as you lean back. Good. And then take the hands to the floor, step all the way back to down dog. Again, you can move through that vinyasa or just pause. Take a few breaths. And then left leg to the sky. Bend the knee, open it up, twist. And then warrior two. Step forward. Really, what a lot of this is it's like hip strength and leg strength is what's important for your spine. If your hips are mobile and strong in those mobilities, then the spine doesn't have to overwork. So you're going to try to take the hips back, lengthen, ribs away from hips, and then as you lift your chest, trying to stand as tall as possible, let the legs follow the upper body. To bow, the hips lead, hips back. Really sit back, maybe deeper into the left leg, and then lift your chest. Come back up. Do one more on your own. So again, as you hips back, try to get into that left side more. Good. Clasp the fingers behind you. Retract shoulder blades back. And then bow forward. You can take the arms all the way over your head. As you loosen up the tension in the front hip and that left leg, try to stay very stable in the back leg so that you're not relaxing the back leg while you work to relax in the front hip, front leg. Make the arms long. Take one last big breath here. And then chest up to come back, warrior two. Straighten the leg, triangle pose. Again, groins back, waistline lifts, but then you are stacked. Your upper body is right over your lower body. Tip down, triangle pose. And it works. If you get things out of sync when you're even in the pose, if you take your thighs back, hips back a little, it should make your upper body bow forward a little, so you can use that. Hips go back, but then lengthen through your upper body as you reopen and stack everything. So you feel all of these different muscles on the back of your body holding strong and steady, even while you feel the stretch. Push your legs down, stretch your arms apart. Awesome. And then hands to the floor, back to downward dog. Have at it. If you want a back bend, go for it. or vinyasa, sorry. Okay, turn onto your right hand and the outer edge of your right foot for Vashisthasana. You can do the variation where you lower your right knee down to the mat. You can do whatever leg variations work for you. I'm showing kind of levels here. These are all options. This is the full thing. So then from there, lifting your hips up high, try to rotate on that bottom shoulder as you turn your chest more to the ceiling. You can take your top foot to the ground behind you a little bit, but think keep lifting the chest as you revolve more open. Good, go back down to down dog, and then transition to the left arm. I won't leave you in it and talk for 30 seconds, so you can already go as you start playing with that to try to get the height, the lift through your hips and chest and armpit, and then the rotation as you turn your chest more to the ceiling. The bottom arm needs to externally rotate even more. Good. And then back through to down dog. Good. Take the right leg up to the sky. Step forward into a lunge. Take your back knee down and keep your back toes tucked under. I'll do it this way. So even here, if you're on the uncomfortable part of your knee, you still may need to pad, but drag your knee forward so the kneecap goes back. And then come on up. So it's this action of the knee pulls forward. You're kind of trying to sit your butt back like that seated hip position. And then from there, drag the back knee forward, see if you can lunge into it without losing the butt altogether. So you pull back, like literally your hips flow back, and then keep that shape as you try to redescend into the front leg. The deeper you get forward, the more the back leg is pulling and resisting. It's got to do that work. It doesn't happen on its own. And then see if you can sit up a little taller. You're welcome to try to stretch the arms or keep them down here. Again, back knee drags forward, hips can shift back, and then you ground your legs to the mat. Awesome. All right, come down for the thigh stretch. Left hand to the floor, right hand to the back foot. Take hold for the thigh stretch. So even here, butt back, pull the foot and get the twist, and then lift through your chest as you take the whole thing forward. You can come down onto the left forearm, maybe. But definitely if you're choosing to go that deep, the position needs to be really clean at that point. Again, the hips, the back knee is still that action of dragging the back knee back as you try to lift and take your heart up, lengthen through that lower and middle part of your spine. Good. Release the hands to the floor, head back to downward dog. Good, and then take your left leg to the sky. That low lunge, step forward, back knee down. And for that pull in the back knee to be there, the foot and the ankle on the back leg all need to be kind of strong. If the foot's wiggling, you're not going to be able to get clear direction in where you want this movement to go. So again, I'm dragging the back knee forward, holding that tension, and that's what pulls the back thigh back. That opens the hip extension leg. Then see if you can lunge forward. So the thighs are getting pulled away from each other. Back thigh goes back, front thigh moves down, still the back of your legs. You keep doing that. Pull the back knee back, hips curl back, and then take your chest up more. A more vertical spine as you ground the hips to the mat. Again, the arms can go up. And still that line of effort and softness. Don't over effort. And then twist, left hand to the floor, right hand to the floor, left hand back for your thigh stretched foot. Glutes back, chest open. Think you're pulling your heart away from your hips as you press the hips down to the floor. So you don't get into this rounded shape. Good. Wonderful. And then let go of the foot. Head back to downward dog. As you inhale, head forward to the top of a push-up. And then lay on your stomach. Bend your knees, so hold your feet or your ankles. So kind of opposite of what we usually say. Push your knees down and your butt should lift up a little bit. That's that seated position. Then from there, see if you can wiggle your chest forward, your shoulders forward, but also up. Then use just the legs initially to pump and take the knees off the floor. And if that's hard, you can do a couple of those. You can even put your head down on the mat and do it. So feel the butt, feel the hamstrings, feel even the low back, the way you move deeper by learning to engage that. You can do this without your hands holding the ankles too. Some ways that makes it easier, some ways that makes it harder. Again, you can go up and do bow pose, but I'm sure for this group that's more interesting to feel like, okay, what's actually taking you into this pose? If you can learn to utilize the backside of your lower body here, then lifting and opening the chest doesn't have to feel like such a struggle. Good. Yeah, rest when you need to. Do some, you can wiggle it out. Good. All right, give yourself one more shot. Grab your ankles, and you can go all the way up. But feel as if you're trying to push your heels straight up to the ceiling. And going slow so you can feel the contraction that happens on the back of you. And managing it. There's no pinching spots. You should just feel like you're learning how to access that strength and how to hold. And this is hard. This is definitely a hard thing to feel all those muscles. Good. All right, you can release, you can shake it out a little bit. And then back to downward dog when you're ready. Good. Take a nice deep breath, stretching your shoulders down towards the floor, sending your hips up and back. Great. And then walk your feet all the way forward to your hands. Take a couple breaths here. Belly in, not the shoulders heavy. Leg down, lift your chest, come all the way up to stand. Yeah, you can take the stretch. Oh. So bend, standing on your right leg, hold your left foot behind your back. You can hold ankle just like we did on our bellies a moment ago. Flexing the foot, or this dorsiflexed ankle is like, if you do this already here, you might even be able to like pull some of these muscles tighter. So that's the point of using that. And then same thing, you can hold onto the foot, you're kicking the leg back. You can try to see your control even without the leg. If you don't hold on to it, you should feel like you can engage things a little more because you're not restricting the shape. But then see if you can hold on but create the same feeling. Fire back, glutes are tight, hamstring is tight. So use that, taking your right arm forward, kicking that leg back, hugging your lifted knee to the midline as you start to tip into this baby dancer pose. Ah. Good, and then up to stand. Shake it out, try the other side. And part of this is like, the pose will get a little easier when you can control it, when you know what's going on. But just functionally, you get so much more out of the time that you work on this because you're consciously asking the body to do these shapes. Again, without the hand is a really good way to feel that. Can you create that more peak contraction? Can you feel like your hamstring get taut as you push your knee back? Your glute tighten up as you extend the lifted hip. So if you just pull the foot in, a lot of times you'll lose awareness of that, but that's the action. Drive the hip back, take the left arm forward. The lifted leg, the strength in it to tip you into this. It's not like the standing leg isn't doing anything either, so like you can bend the knee a little, make sure you're good and heavy on the heel. Good. All right, come on up. Shake it out. And then a big breath, stretch up. Exhale, fold. Left foot back, lunge. You can stay low, we're going to twist. You can even put your back knee down. We're going to twist over the front leg. So this shape. If you can get the armpit right on top of the knee, the bottom armpit, you can touch the floor by your front foot and take the other arm up. You could also try binding. That's all totally optional. But push down heavy through your front heel. You can try lifting the back knee off the mat. But when the knee comes up, make the arms, make the weight of the upper body, not just lay on your leg, but really press down against your front thigh. Soft eyes wherever you look. Good, super good. Take the hands to the floor, change the legs. And then same thing on the left side. Twist into the left. So yeah, that's a marker you can play with, is left armpit, or right armpit, bottom armpit on top of the knee. Then when you feel steady, when you've already been in that twist for a few breaths, you can try lifting your back knee. You can take it into those deeper forms. But trying to hold with it those good actions you had in the beginning. Yeah. Good. All right, hands to the floor. Two hands and knees, all fours. Take the right arm, one more twist just to get some stretch in the back muscles. Right arm down to the floor. Turn to the side of the head. Eventually, even to the back of the head. Left knee, keep it heavy. As you keep trying to slide your right arm through more, like inching where your right shoulder is on the mat. That bottom shoulder can kind of keep squishing it a little more to the left as you get used to the opening. Exhales will help you here. Good. And then untwist back to center. Good. And then left arm under second side. Good. And then come on back up to center. You're going to sit on your, and if you need some cushion in for your knees, this works well. Like you can roll up a couple layers of your mat and stick your knees on it. I don't know why I always undo it, but it's my own thing. So toes tucked under, you can do this both ways. Again, it's the same foot position, it's the, that we've been messing with today. So you're going to sit down towards your heels. Again, this should be like that good chair pose. You sit down, thighs go back, waistline lifts. And then think as you open up, the thighs are staying back. I'm trying to pull this part of my chest up until I get hip extension, okay? So that's like the movement. We're going to work into camel pose from the seated position because I think it's a little easier than the way it's often taught. So the next version, once you get good at just like feeling steady, you sit down, the ribs stay lifted, you come up, it's like you're trying to pull the heart to the sky, braced through the midsection. So when you get down, then you can do one arm at the same time. So for me, it's my left hand, left foot. You're going to open and take the shoulder back. Then from there, I do that same thing. Thighs back, chest leads. Think heart to the sky. And then I can go back down. So instead of what you want to be careful of not doing is letting the butt lead like this leads, and you crunch your back at the extended position. So down, chest up. You can go up. You can do one arm at a time. Don't force the end range. We're warming into this. Then both hands, like this is to camel pose. As I take my hips back to sit down, Take my chest up. Try that a few times. Yeah. Another good thing is if touching your ankles is, like if it's just too far, you can put blocks, so you have something you can push into as an option here. I mean, there's so many ways you can make this more complicated. I'll show you a few. So if you have this one arm variation, chest lifts. I'm never dumping my butt under. I'm lifting and lifting. Sometimes I've kind of been of the opinion, like in the last 5 years, of like, why, if it's hard and people get into trouble, I almost don't teach those poses unless we're in the group that's like, this will be advanced. I am not promising this will not, like, you may hurt yourself or something like that. But I've been getting bored. I've been like, yeah, I should teach some of these goofy poses. And if that seems like weird at all, I mean, really all we're doing is the bridge pose that you guys know very well. So lay on your back. That goofy thing that I always teach in bridge is precisely this. So with your arms bent, your head and your shoulders pressed down, lift your hips up, but make the chest be what is really lifting and really moving away from your waist as much as you can. Then when you sit your butt back to the ground, you drop those thighs down, and you keep the chest up, you should be organizing the position of the spine. So you go down, chest stays lifted, and then as you lift your hips back up, making sure the chest is staying lifted. It's not just a hip movement that you're doing. Rest whenever you need to. Do some windshield wipers between rounds. I find like it's a lot easier for nothing to go wrong in that reclined version. That's why that's the one I teach. And if it does get off, this is usually a good pose to kind of reset things. All right, one more back bend. It can be the same deal. If you want to go all the way up and do wheel pose, you can. Place your hands by your ears and go on up. And then when you do get back down, widen your feet apart, rock your knees to the right. And then right foot on top of left outer knee, upper or lower thigh there. And the more you lift your right knee higher up off the ground, that will line things up a little bit more. Good. And then feet back to the floor, wide, mat distance wide. Knees roll to the left. Left foot on the top of the right. You can lift your left knee higher with your hand. You can grab and actually just lift the leg up.
And then back to center. Alright, cross your right ankle over your
left thigh and hold the left leg. You can do it behind the thigh. You can grab, keeping your left leg bent, you could grab your front of your shin. You could even do it with a straight left leg. Keep kicking the legs away as you hold on tight with your hands. And then switch, left leg on top. You're holding the right leg. You can, again, behind the thigh, in front of the shin or straight leg. Good, and then release
your legs.
Straighten the middle.
You want to do a few legs, wrap your legs in and out. It's likely that you'll feel like one hip does the external rotation part of that much easier, like the foot will want to fall out more. You're just shaking the tension out. Then lift the right leg back up.
Hold the back of the leg, right leg. Point your left toes straight up at the ceiling though, so keep the leg turned in and square. That's your base. And if you push the whole leg from the butt to the back of the knee and to the heel all down, and then try to do the same in the top leg. Everything goes back, so butt, knee, ankle. Feel like they're pressing in the direction of the back of your leg or towards, you could think like you're going to put the foot on the floor. I know that might be a weird thing to think about, but especially your left hip and top of the left thigh bone. So it's not just your heel, you're really trying to get the whole leg to move back. And the movement in the hip is what's going to make you feel you'll get more flexibility, you'll get more range. Okay, we're going to twist from here. So cross the leg all the way over. So now the bottom leg, your left leg, you're on the little toe side of the foot, outer knee, outer hip. Push
down so your knee slightly lifts. So your hips and lower back stabilize. You can take your hand down into this twist.
Good, and then come back up. Center yourself, maybe do a few of those leg rocks that just rocking the legs out. So you're just loosening hips and back. And then take the left leg to the sky, pointing your right toes up to the ceiling, pressing that leg into the floor. Butt, knee, calf, hamstring, heel. If you get that right, like it should lift your low back. It should stabilize the hip position. And then do the same in the top leg. Try to stretch through the leg, but at the same time, like you're moving it back. That's why your hands, using them more as a wall, as a barrier, than so that you push into something. But then with all the nuance of learning how to move the top of the thigh and the base of your ankle together. This should feel like really good on your low back when you can not just be forcing the leg in, when you actually learn to do the actions in the leg, less in the arms. Take the leg across your body, twist, pushing the bottom leg down so the low back lifts, so you take any lateral bend out of your spine. And breathe into it. Breathe a deeper sense of calm and heaviness into the body. And then back up to center. Bring the knees in once again. Give your legs a hug this time. And then happy baby pose. Hold the feet. Pull the knees down. And as you hold that, try to send your butt to the mat as well. And then any last pose you'd like to do from there, you can do it now. Eventually making your way to Shavasana, to that reclined position, or coming up to a seated position for meditation. You get the practice in Shavasana or in meditation. It's calming the system down. So especially when there are distractions. And generally, anytime you do meditations, there's those internal distractions. It's the challenge of centering the mind, of calming down all the swirling of thought. And the same thing, so it's all of the things that could take your attention away from you. The sounds, the noise, the air blowing on your skin. And the practice is you choosing to disregard those things and refocus yourself more deeply. Focus on a soft quality of your breath. Focus on keeping a part of your body soft and relaxed. Your eyes, eyelids are always a really good one to focus on. Begin to deepen your breath. Taking gentle movements, any stretch. From there, bend your knees, roll to your side, and make your way back up to sit. Taking your time to do so you remain calm, more settled. And as you sit, reflecting on how you feel, on kind of the elements of practice, it still is, so amazing how we can talk about these kind of yogic qualities and do a practice that is teaching you to move in your body, to think about things in your body, to exert yourself, and yet the after effect can be so wonderful for the mind and the heart. That ability to hold yourself steady, to not overreact to those distractions as they come in. Distractions in your body, distractions in your mind, distractions all around you in the world. And so hopefully yoga works for you because of the ways that it can enrich your experience of this world, enrich your life. As you bring your hands together in front of yourself, acknowledge that to those things, to those elements that are refined, that are improved. And all the work that we're constantly doing within ourselves to hold ourselves that most skillful versions of us. To your heart, take a deep breath in, and you can bow. Namaste. Thank you, guys.